The silence in the Grand Convocation Chamber was heavier than neutron star matter. Ambassador Elias Voss could feel the weight of centuries of alien bureaucracy pressing down on his shoulders as he stood motionless in the circle of judgment. The air carried the acrid tang of ionized particles from the hovering translator drones mixed with the faint musk of a dozen different alien species, each scent marking a civilization that had voted to erase humanity from galactic society. High Prelate Zanver's exoskeleton clicked as he rose from his floating throne, the bioluminescent patterns along his carapace pulsing crimson with finality. The holographic decree materialized in the air above the assembly, its letters burning with the sterile glow of bureaucratic condemnation. Species designation, human. Classification, Omega level threat. Directive, full quarantine of Sol system and all associated colonies. Effective immediately. Voss didn't react. He'd prepared for this moment since the first human colony ship had accidentally crossed into Conclave space 3 standard cycles ago. His left hand drifted unconsciously to the silver ring on his right pinky finger, an heirloom from his great-grandfather who had fought in Earth's last resource war. The cool metal against his skin grounded him as the chamber's defense systems hummed to life, their targeting arrays painting invisible crosshairs across his torso. "You call this justice?" Voss asked, his voice carefully modulated to betray none of the fury simmering beneath his calm exterior. High Prelate Zanver's antennae twitched in irritation. "We call this necessity. Your species' violent history, your reckless expansion, your inability to adhere to even the most basic tenets of the Pax Galactica." "Our violent history?" Voss interrupted with a humorless smile. He taped his wrist calm, and a new hologram sprang to life beside the condemnation decree, a timeline of the Conclave's own bloody expansion across the Orion Arm, the Veld Purges, the Mechani assimilation wars, the Cassari genocide. "Shall I continue?" A ripple of discomfort passed through the assembled delegates. The Mechani representatives' optics dimmed slightly, while the Veld ambassadors' bioluminescent spots flared an angry violet. Zanver's claws scrapped against the armrests of his throne. "This session is concluded. You will be escorted back to your ship." "And one last thing." Voss reached slowly into his jacket, ignoring the sudden whine of charging plasma weapons. What emerged wasn't a weapon, but the simple data crystal, its surface etched with the old United Nations emblem. "A parting gift, our complete anthropological archives." He placed it gently on the polished floor, where it gleamed like a drop of mercury under the chamber lights. "Consider it ... Context for your decision." As the massive doors sealed behind him with a thunderous boom, the Council's security protocols immediately isolated the data crystal in a containment field. Scans showed no explosives, no viruses, just information. The first file to load was security footage from the edge of human spacia dated yesterday. It showed a single human cruiser, its design unlike anything in Conclave records, systematically dismantling a pirate fleet that had plagued the Orion Spur for decades. The battle lasted 17 minutes. The pirates didn't manage a single hit. The final image was a single line of text in burning crimson glyphs. "You will remember why you feared the dark." Somewhere in the chamber, a Veld science officer began to hyperventilate. The data crystal's contents spread through the Galactic Conclave's networks like a virus, though their engineers swore it contained no malicious code. The security footage alone should have been impossibly human ships moving at velocities that defied known physics, weapon systems bypassing shields through some unholy combination of plasma and kinetic force, crews operating at combat efficiency levels that would have broken any civilized species. In his private quarters aboard the human diplomatic Philotruth Aero, Ambassador Voss watched the first reports trickle in from the quarantine perimeter. His fingers danced across a holographic interface, pulling up feeds from 100 hidden sensors they'd seeded throughout Conclave space during the so-called cultural exchange programs. The aliens were panicking. "Exactly as planned. They studied our history," murmured Dr. Lara Voss, his daughter Anthea Aros, a chief xenopsychologist. Her fingers traced the glowing data streams. "But they read it wrong." On the main display, a Conclave analyst's report scrolled by pages of frantic annotations about human warfare. They documented every conflict, every atrocity, every moment of barbarism, and missed the pattern entirely. 7 months earlier, Mars orbital shipyards. The quarantine declaration had come at 3:42 Universal Standard Time. By 4:15, Earth's defense grids were online. By 5 o'clock, every major colony had enacted Lazarus protocols. Engineer Rhea Patel floated into zero-G construction bay, her magnetic boots anchoring her to the skeletal frame of what would become the UNS Retribution. Around her, a swarm of construction drones moved with airy precision, their movements guided by the new eyes grown from the salvaged Mechanic Corps chief, called a young technician, his voice cracking. The conclave just cut off our helium-3 shipments. Patel didn't look up from her welder. Good, but the fusion reactors will run on seawater. Next problem. A screen nearby displayed Earth's historical timeline, one Patel had insisted every engineer memorize. IDRS's middle. 2024 say first I singularity IDRS's middle. IDRS's middle. 2047 say quantum tunneling achieved IDRS's middle. IDRS's middle. 2062 say first practical warp drive IDRS's middle. Every breakthrough had come immediately after a global crisis. The conclave had given humanity the greatest crisis of all, and like idiots, they'd left their technology within reach. Present day, edge of quarantine zone. The CSS Vanguard had drifted silently just inside the exclusion boundary, her hybrid drive humming at 0.001% capacity. Captain Marco Ruiz watched the conclave patrol ships pass within 50 kilometers, their sensors somehow blind to the massive warship in their midst. Stealth field holding at 98.6% efficiency, reported his tech officer. Their scans are passing right through us. Ruiz smiled. The aliens had been so proud of their phase shift technology when they demonstrated it during the cultural exchanges, so generous with the technical specifications. A warning chime sounded. Captain, we're picking up a distress call. Conclave science. Vela illuminate. They've stumbled into the Theta 9 anomaly. Ruiz's smile vanished. Theta 9 was a gravitational nightmare, a collapsed star fragment they'd been using to test the new hybrid drives. No conclave ship could survive it. Set intercept course, he ordered. Maximum stealth. His first officer hesitated. Sir, protocol says I know what protocol says, and I know what humans do. Ruiz activated the ship-wide comm. Battle stations. Prepare for rescue operations. As the Vanguard surged forward, her hull shimmering with stolen alien technology and human ingenuity, Ruiz couldn't help but wonder when the conclave saw a human warship emerge from nowhere to save their people, what would frighten them more? That we could have killed them anytime, or that we chose not to? The conclave's xenopsychologists had a technical term for it: cognitive fracture adaptation. The military officers called IDA the madness vector. The few survivors of early human encounters simply called it terror. Dr. Yalara Xanath stared at the security feed from the Theta 9 incident, her 4 hands trembling as they manipulated the holographic display. The footage showed the conclave science Vela illuminate caught in the anomaly's gravitational tides, its hull buckling under forces no ship should survive. Then impossibly a human warship materialized from nowhere. Not just any warship, the same unidentified cruiser from the pirate footage. By the first egg, whispered her assistant, his feathers flattening in distress. Their stealth technology. It's not just phase shifting, they've somehow combined it with gravitational lensing, Xanath finished. A physical impossibility according to conclave physics. Yet there it was. The humans hadn't just reverse-engineered their technology, they reinvented it. 6 months into quarantine, a Titan research facility, Dr. Samuel Kessler wiped blood from his nose. The zero-gravity hemorrhage, a small price to pay for what floated before him. The salvaged Mechanic warp core pulsed erratically in its containment field, its alien geometries now interlaced with human quantum computing nodes. It shouldn't work, murmured Lieutenant Chen, his face lit by the core's eerie blue glow. Their technology is based on entirely different principles. Kessler grinned. That's why it works. He taped a control panel. The hybrid core flared to life, its energy signature somehow both a Mechanic and something else, something new. On the monitor, Equations scroll too fast for human eyes but not for the eye grown from the Mechanicor's operating system. An eye that had developed a peculiar sense of humor since merging with human programming. // Destination? / Kessler exchanged glances with his team. Conclave Central Archives. Let's take a peek at what they didn't share. The core hummed, its light shifting to a deep crimson. / Calculating illegal trajectory. / Warning. This action will violate 47 galactic laws. / Proceeding. / Present-day Conclave High Command Fleet Admiral Vex slammed his fist against the tactical display, cracking the screen. Explain again how they did this. Before him hovered images of human ships appearing and disappearing across the quarantine boundary, and not just crossing it, but dancing along its edges in ways that defied both physics and reason. Sir, his chief engineer whispered, we believe they've created a new form of quantum slipstream. By combining our warp technology with what? The engineer hesitated. With something they call SCHR-8 drive. The ships exist in multiple places until observed. Vex's crest flattened in horror. That wasn't technology. That was witchcraft. A proximity alarm shrieked. The tactical board lit up with new contacts, dozens of Thema materializing inside the quarantine zone. No. Not materializing, revealing themselves. As the first human transmission came through, Vex realized the true depth of their mistake. The voice sounded almost cheerful. Hey there, numbers. Miss us? The alarms aboard the Conclave monitoring station Eternal Vigila had been screaming for 13 minutes when Science Officer Vril finally accepted the impossible. His 6 eyes darted between the holographic displays, each showing the same terrifying data. The quarantine boundary, an impenetrable energy field powered by 12 black hole generators, was being heated. Report. Commander's eyes barked, her exoskeleton vibrating with tension. Vril manipulated the controls with trembling appendages. Human vessels are appearing at random coordinates along the perimeter, not crossing. Commander. A materializing inside the containment zone. The main display zoomed in on a human cruiser as it flickered into existence, its hull shimmering with an unnatural quantum haze before solidifying. The ship's identification codes flashed. UNS Prometheus, research vessel. Zeise's mandibles clicked in disbelief. That's a civilian science ship. Howard Alia, Commander. Another officer interrupted. The Prometheus is hailing us. The transmission that filled the bridge wasn't the angry defiance they'd expected. Instead, a human female in a stained lab coat smiled from the view screen, her wild gray hair floating in zero gravity. Conclave vessel. This is Dr. Eleanor Park of the Sol Alliance Science Division. We appear to be having some a technical difficulties with your containment field. She held up a device that made Vril's carapace crawl, a hybrid of mechanic quantum circuitry and human design. Would you like our telemetry data to help diagnose the issue? 9 months earlier, a Pluto research outpost, the stolen Mechanicore, floated in its containment chamber, pulsing like a living thing. Dr. Park circled it slowly, her boots magnetized to the floor as she studied the energy readings. Fascinating, she murmured. Their quantum entanglement principles are elegant, but what? Asked Major Carter, his arms crossed. Park grinned. But they never thought to break the entanglement. She typed a command into her datapad. The core flared violently, then stabilized, its quantum signature now fluctuating in a way that should have been impossible. Carter's eyes widened as the sensors went wild. What did you just do? Created a paradox, Park said cheerfully. The core is now entangled with itself across multiple quantum states. Observe. She activated the test vessel, a small probe floating nearby. One moment it was there, the next, it was everywhere. Sensors showed the probe simultaneously in the lab, in orbit around Mars, and, most disturbingly, briefly appearing inside the commander's coffee cup before Park shut the system down. Carter wiped spilled coffee from his uniform. Jesus Christ, you've invented teleportation. Park shook her head. Better, we've invented ambiguity. Present-day quarantine zone perimeter. Fleet Admiral Vex stared at the tactical display in growing horror. 12 human ships now floated inside the quarantine zone, each appearing without warning, their quantum signatures fluctuating wildly. All vessels target those ships," he ordered. "Full weapons discharge on my admiral." The sensor officer interrupted. "New contacts. Hundreds of them." The display lit up like a supernova as the entire human fleet, ships that shouldn't exist, bearing weapons that defied physics, winked into existence across the solar system. Thea Prometheus's transmission was still open. Dr. Park's smile had turned predatory. "By the way," she said sweetly, "we've finished analyzing your containment technology. Fascinating work with the black hole matrices. We made some A improvements." The view screen split to show the quarantine field generators, now under human control, their event horizons stabilizing as they began expanding outward. Vex's blood ran cold as he realized the truth. The humans hadn't broken quarantine. They'd stolen it. The distress beacon from the Conclave Vigilante had been pinging for 6 hours before the human patrol Vela UNS Answer finally responded. Captain Rail Jork of the Conclave Science Division watched through cracked optics as the human ship materialized from quantum haze, its sleek hybrid designated part mechanical elegance, part brutal human pragmatism blocking the light of the dying star behind it. His claws dug into the command chair as the comm system crackled to life. "Conclave vessel, this is Captain Elias Voss of the United Sol Navy. You appear to be in distress." Jorek's crest flattened. That voice, that a name. The same human who had stood before the High Council the day they banned his species. The view screen flickered, revealing a bridge unlike anything in Conclave designated alien alloy bulkheads covered in handwritten equations, a mechany-derived I-core pulsing beside a potted earth plant, crew members in patched uniforms that mixed Conclave fabrics with human military insignia. And at the center, Voss, older now, a scar running through his left eyebrow that hadn't been there before. Jorek forced his vocal sacs to work. "We require assistance. Our engines are suffering from quantum harmonic destabilization." Voss finished. "A common issue when you push mechany drives past their safety limits. We can fix that." A human repair team boarded 20 minutes later. Jorek watched in horrified fascination as they worked not with the careful precision of Conclave engineers, but with what looked like reckless improvisation. One technician sang as shear-wired the core, another solved equations on his forearm with a marker. Chief Engineer Lux whispered, "They're not following any known protocols." The human woman at the warp core laughed. "A protocols are just somebody else's limits." 3 weeks earlier, edge of human space, the UNS Answer floated dark and silent, running on minimal power to avoid detection. On the bridge, Voss studied the incoming Conclave scout ship through enhanced optics. "Right on schedule," he murmured. First Officer Chan adjusted the quantum stealth field. "They're scanning the sector. Looking for what? Ruins? Primitive colonies?" Voss smiled, looking for confirmation that the quarantine worked. The tactical display pinged that the scout ship had entered the trap. A gravitational anomaly, human-made, flared to life, its signature perfectly mimicking a natural cosmic event. "Now," Voss ordered. The Answer's engineer activated the pulse, just enough to destabilize the Conclave ship's drives without causing real damage. As predicted, the scout vessel began emergency broadcasts. Chan shook his head. "This is cruel." Voss watched the alien ship flounder. Cruel was thinking you could cage an entire species and never face consequences. This is just a conversation starter." Present day aboard the Conclave Vigilant repairs took exactly 47 minutes. Jorek stared at his now functioning drive readouts in disbelief. "Impossible. Our best engineers would need days till we've had practice." Voss interrupted. 7 years of being locked in a box makes you creative." The human crew gathered their tools with unsettling cheerfulness. As they prepared to leave, Voss paused at the airlock. "Oh, one more thing." He tossed Jorek a data crystal. "Give this to the High Council." Jorek's claws closed around the object. "What is it?" "An invitation." Back on the Answer, Chen finally voiced the question haunting him. "Do you think they'll understand the message?" Voss watched the Conclave ship jump to warp. "They will now." The data crystal contained just 2 files. 1. Current status of human spacia, Dyson swarms, quantum forges, fleet numbers that shouldn't exist. 2. 3. A single Earth calendar marking the days since Quarantine 8 2557 4, and counting the void between stars burned with silent fury as the Conclave's 7th battle group drifted in ruins. Admiral Crix's remaining eye twitched as he reviewed the tactical displays, his claws scraping against the command console's smooth surface. The humans hadn't just defeated his forces, they'd rewritten the rules of war. On this fractured view screen, the last moments of the battle replayed in haunting clarity. 1. The opening gambit, human stealth mine as improvised from salvaged coolant tanks detonated across the Conclave formation, not to destroy, but to herd, like ancient earth wolves driving prey into killing zones. 2. 3. The trap springs, 32 human fighters emerged from the debris field, not attacking, not evading, simply positioning themselves in precise geometric patterns that made no tactical sense until the Conclave ship's own weapons fire began ricocheting back at them. 4. 5. The horror revealed a dying human cruiser, its spine broken by plasma fire, deliberately tumbled into the gravity well of a nearby moon. Crix watched in dawning horror as the ship's engineers, visible through shattered viewports, cheered while rerouting power to the engines. 6. The impact created a perfectly timed seismic pulse that knocked every Conclave ship off trajectory simultaneously. By the first egg, Crix's second-in-command whispered as the human boarding pod slammed home. 3 months earlier, Raymar's Tactical Academy, the holographic war game, flickered as Cadet Akeda executed her final move. Across the simulation, 12 mechani warships dissolved into pixelated ruin. Instructor, the Veln exchange officer, protested. This violates 17 articles of the Galactic Warfare Accords. Colonel Singh sipped his coffee. Which is why we'll win. The after-action report showed how IDRS's used asteroid dust to blind enemy sensors. Article 14, Section 3, IDRS's repurposed medical nanites as leading weapons. Article 9, prohibited. IDRS's deployed psychological warfare via hacked entertainment feeds. No existing prohibition. Humans were the first to try. IDRS's war isn't about fairness, Singh told his stunned alien observers. It's about making sure your grandchildren survive. Present-day A Battle of Cygnus 9 aftermath. The human boarding parties moved with terrifying efficiency. Not to capture, not to destroy. Toa educate. Crix watched through cracked cameras as the invaders left datapads at every command station. Each contained the same files. 1. Complete schematics of Conclave ships better than their own archives. 2. 3. Simulation software showing how humans would defeat each design. 4. 5. A single text file titled "You Still Don't Understand." 6. The attached video showed a human child on Earth solving a puzzle box. After 30 seconds of failure, she simply smashed it open with the rock. The message was clear. Humanity hadn't won by being stronger. They'd won by refusing to play the game. The void between stars burned with silent fury as the Conclave's 7th battle group drifted in ruins. Admiral Crix's remaining eye twitched as he reviewed the tactical displays, his claws scraping against the command console's smooth surface. The humans hadn't just defeated his forces, they'd rewritten the rules of war. On this fractured view screen, the last moments of the battle replayed in haunting clarity. 1. The opening gambit, human stealth mine as improvised from salvaged coolant tanks detonated across the Conclave formation, not to destroy, but to herd, like ancient earth wolves driving prey into killing zones. 2. 3. The trap springs, 32 human fighters emerged from the debris field, not attacking, not evading, simply positioning themselves in precise geometric patterns that made no tactical sense until the Conclave ship's own weapons fire began ricocheting back at them. 4. 5. The horror revealed a dying human cruiser, its spine broken by plasma fire, deliberately tumbled into the gravity well of a nearby moon. Crix watched in dawning horror as the ship's engineers, visible through shattered viewports, cheered while rerouting power to the engines. 6. The impact created a perfectly timed seismic pulse that knocked every Conclave ship off trajectory simultaneously. By the first egg, Crix's second-in-command whispered as the human boarding pod slammed home. 3 months earlier, Raymar's Tactical Academy, the holographic war game, flickered as Cadet Akeda executed her final move. Across the simulation, ruin. 12 mechany warships dissolved into pixelated ruin. Instructor, the Veln exchange officer protested. This violates 17 articles of the Galactic Warfare Accords. Colonel Singh sipped his coffee. Which is why we'll win. The after-action report showed how IDRS's used asteroid dust to blind enemy sensors. Article 14, Section 3, IDRS's repurposed medical nanites as leading weapons. Article 9, prohibited, deployed psychological warfare via hacked entertainment feeds. No existing prohibition. Humans were the first to try. IDRS's war isn't about fairness, Singh told his stunned alien observers. It's about making sure your grandchildren survive. Present-day A Battle of Cygnus 9 aftermath. The human boarding parties moved with terrifying efficiency. Not to capture, not to destroy. Toa educate. Crix watched through cracked cameras as the invaders left datapads at every command station. Each contained the same files. 1. Complete schematics of Conclave ships better than their own archives. 2. 3. Simulation software showing how humans would defeat each design. 4. 5. A single text file titled "You Still Don't Understand." 6. The attached video showed a human child on Earth solving a puzzle box. After 30 seconds of failure, she simply smashed it open with the rock. The message was clear. Humanity hadn't won by being stronger. They'd won by refusing to play the game. The void between stars burned with silent fury as the Conclave's 7th battle group drifted in ruins. Admiral Crix's remaining eye twitched as he reviewed the tactical displays, his claws scraping against the command console's smooth surface. The humans hadn't just defeated his forces, they'd rewritten the rules of war. On this fractured viewscreen, the last moments of the battle replayed in haunting clarity. 1. The opening gambit. A human stealth mine as improvised from salvaged coolant tanks detonated across the Conclave formation. Not to destroy, but to herd, like ancient earth wolves driving prey into killing zones. 2. 3. The trap springs. 32 human fighters emerged from the debris field, not attacking, not evading, simply positioning themselves in precise geometric patterns that made no tactical sense until the Conclave ship's own weapons fire began ricocheting back at them. 4. 5. The horror revealed a dying human cruiser, its spine broken by plasma fire, deliberately tumbled into the gravity well of a nearby moon. Crix watched in dawning horror as the ship's engineers, visible through shattered viewports, cheered while rerouting power to the engines. 6. The impact created a perfectly timed seismic pulse that knocked every Conclave ship off trajectory simultaneously. By the first egg, Crix's second-in-command whispered as the human boarding pod slammed home. 3 months earlier, Mars Tactical Academy, the holographic war game, flickered as Cadet Akeda executed her final move. Across the simulation, 12 mechany warships dissolved into pixelated ruin. Instructor, the Veln exchange officer protested. This violates 17 articles of the Galactic Warfare Accords. Colonel Singh sipped his coffee. Which is why we'll win. The after-action report showed how IDRS's used asteroid dust to blind enemy sensors. Article 14, Section 3, IDRS's repurposed medical nanites as leading weapons. Article 9, prohibited, IDRS's deployed psychological warfare via hacked entertainment feeds. No existing prohibition. Humans were the first to try. IDRS's war isn't about fairness, Singh told his stunned alien observers. It's about making sure your grandchildren survive. Present-day A Battle of Cygnus 9 aftermath. The human boarding parties moved with terrifying efficiency. Not to capture, not to destroy. Toa educate. Crix watched through cracked cameras as the invaders left datapads at every command station. Each contained the same files. 1. Complete schematics of Conclave ships better than their own archives. 2. 3. Simulation software showing how humans would defeat each design. 4. 5. A single text file titled "You Still Don't Understand." 6. The attached video showed a human child on Earth solving a puzzle box. After 30 seconds of failure, she simply smashed it open with the rock. The message was clear. Humanity hadn't won by being stronger. They'd won by refusing to play the game. The vault beneath the high conclave chambers had remained sealed for 12 millennia. Its walls, carved from a single piece of black neutron star matter, hummed with containment fields strong enough to crush space-time. High Prelate Zanver's claws trembled as he input the decryption codes passed down through 600 generations of his bloodline. The holographic records flickered to life, projecting the truth the Conclave had buried. // classified archives a species origin, Homo sapiens // last taxist, 10,743 years ago / the footage showed a different galaxy, a different war. Humanity's first interstellar empire, the forgotten epoch 15,000 years before quarantine. The images burned into Zanver's retinas. 1. The Great Forge Worlds Dyson spheres constructed in months, not centuries. Entire stars encased in geometric patterns that hurt to observe. 2. 3. The silent war, humanity fighting a something at the galactic rim. The records blurred whenever it appeared, the darkness that twisted ships into impossible shapes. 4. 5. The choice, the last human emperor standing before the first conclave, placing a data crystal into their primitive claws. We must forget, for all our sakes. 6. Zanver staggered back as the final image resolved a star map marking Earth not as humanity's cradle, but as their prison. Present-day Conclave High Command. The War Council erupted when Zanver shared the truth. You're saying we didn't contain them? Fleet Marshal Jorak's exoskeleton rattled. We release it to them. On the tactical display, human ships continued their advance, not conquering, not destroying, remembering. Zanver watched as the lead human Valethia UNS Nomosenia activated a signal that made ancient conclave runes across the galaxy light up in harmony. The quarantine was never about protecting the galaxy from humans, he whispered. It was about protecting humans from what they'd become. The war room aboard the conclave flagship Eternal Judgment smelled of ozone and fear. Fleet Admiral Vex stared at the tactical display where the human armada advanced in perfect synchronization, their ships moving with an eerie, predatorial grace that defied all known combat doctrines. The alien admiral's claws clicked against the polished obsidian console as he zoomed in on the lead vessel, the UNS Nemosine. Its hull bore strange markings that hadn't been there during the quarantine, ancient sigils that pulsed with a faint blue light. Activate the historical records, Vex ordered, his voice strained. The holographic displays flickered to life, showing footage from the early days of the quarantine. Human ships had been primitive then, barely spaceworthy by conclave standards. Now they moved with purpose, their formations too precise, their tactics too refined. Science Officer Vryl's antennae trembled as he analyzed the energy signatures. Admiral, their quantum signatures match the archaeological records from the First Age. The patterns are identical to the runes in the Forbidden Sector. A chill ran through Vex's exoskeleton. The Forbidden Sector contained relics from a long-dead civilization, one that had supposedly vanished before the Conclave rose to power. The same civilization that had left warnings carved in every known language across the galaxy. Beware the rememberers. On screen, the Nomosine fired no weapons, launched no missiles. Instead, it emitted a pulse of energy that made the stars themselves seem to shudder. Across the conclave fleet, systems flickered as ancient subsystems nobody remembered installing suddenly activated. Vex's own flagship shuddered as hidden compartments opened in its hull, revealing archaic technology that hadn't been functional in millennia. Report. Vex sparked. Unknown systems coming online, Admiral. The tech officer cried. Our own ships are responding to the human signal. The truth struck Vex like a plasma bolt. The Conclave hadn't built their civilization from nothing. They'd inherited it, and the original owners had just woken up. The main view screen flickered, then displayed a human face, Admiral Elias Voss, his eyes now glowing with the same blue light as the sigils on his ship. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries. You thought you were containing a threat, he said, each word resonating through the ship's hull. You were preserving a weapon. Deep in the galaxy's dark spaces, something ancient stirred. The human fleet turned as one toward the void between stars, their weapons powering up for the first time in 15,000 years. The quarantine had never been a prison. It had been a countdown. The chamber trembled as the last of the ancient machines slotted into place, their surfaces humming with dormant energy that had waited 15,000 years to be awakened. Ambassador Elias Voss stood before the reassembled Galactic Conclave, his simple human frame dwarfed by the towering alien representatives, yet radiating a quiet authority that silenced the room. The air carried the sharp scent of ionized particles from the newly activated devices buried beneath the chamber floor. Devices no species but humanity remembered how to operate. "You called us monsters," Voss began, his voice echoing strangely in the acoustically perfect hall, "when all along we were the keepers of the cage." A holographic projection flickered to life above the assembly, showing the true history of the galaxy. Not the sanitized records the Conclave had preserved, but the raw, unfiltered truth. Images of the First War burned through the artificial light. Human ships unlike any in modern design battling swirling darkness at the edge of the galaxy. The footage showed the final desperate act, humanity using weapons that twisted reality itself to push back the enemy, then deliberately erasing their own memories to prevent the darkness from finding them again. Fleet Marshal Jorak's exoskeleton rattled as the truth settled upon him. The quarantine. It was never containment, it was preservation. Voss nodded, touching the silver ring that had been passed down through his family for generations, now revealed to be a fragment of ancient human technology. "We built the prison, then forgot we were the wardens. You found the keys and thought they were shackles." The chamber's ancient machinery pulsed in rhythm with the neural implants every human delegate now sported, technology that had begun activating across the species as the Nemosign's signal spread. The implants glowed the same mirror blue as the sigils on humanity's awakened ships. Outside the observation windows, the galaxy's rebuilt defenses hummed to full readiness. Not to fight the darkness coming from the void, but to lure it into the trap humanity had prepared millennia ago. "You banned us for being dangerous," Voss said, his eyes reflecting the glow of the galaxy's waking defenses. "Now the whole universe will be grateful that we were." The chamber doors sealed with a final, thunderous boom as the first warning sirens began to wail. The great engines buried beneath 1,000 worlds finished their awakening sequence, their harmonic vibrations resonating through the fabric of space-time itself. Across the galaxy, every species felt it, a deep, subsonic hum that vibrated in the bones of carbon-based life forms and resonated through the crystalline matrices of silicon civilizations alike. On the bridge of the UNS Nemosign, Admiral Voss watched as the final pieces of humanity's forgotten legacy slotted into place. The view screen showed the yawning abyss of the Great Rift, where something ancient and hungry stirred after 15 millennia of silence. Dr. Lara Voss adjusted the neural interface connecting her to the ship's newly awakened systems. "The network is at 98% synchronization," she reported, her voice strained with the effort of holding so much data in her mind. "All defense grids are responding. The trap is set." The alien delegates had called it madness when humanity revealed their plan to draw the ancient enemy into the galaxy rather than fight it at the rift, to use entire star systems as bait, to reignite weapons that had once scorched the fabric of reality itself. The first tendrils of darkness breached the rift, fractal patterns of anti-light that twisted perception around them. Sensor readings spiked into impossible values as the thing that had haunted the galaxy's childhood memories returned. Voss activated the ancient control panel buried beneath the Nemosign's bridge. The sigils along its surface flared to life, matching those now glowing on his skin. "All ships, stand by for final sequence." Across known space, every human vessel powered up their newly remembered systems. Not to fight, not to flee, but to remember, to become what they had been designed to be. The darkness rushed forward, sensing the ripe galaxy before it, and crossed the threshold where humanity's forgotten machines lay waiting. Voss whispered the activation phase in a language no living being remembered learning. The galaxy flashed white. When the light faded, the rift was sealed, the darkness was gone, and humanity stood transformed, their eyes burning with the blue fire of those who have finally come home to their purpose. The quarantine was over. The Guardians had awakened.